I'm born and raised an accountant, and now I'm kind of picking up science and technology through data science. But, from a professional perspective at NSF, it's such a national priority right now. I mean, STEM is the foundation of U.S. leadership.
Welcome to Rise and Stride, where we empower you to take your next step in an ever-changing business landscape. Here's your host, Denise LeDuc-Froemming, President and CEO of the California Society of CPAs.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rise and Stride. With me today is Mike Wetclow, Deputy CFO and Division Controller for Financial Management at the National Science Foundation, where he is focused on transforming its financial management functions to include robotic process automation, blockchain, cybersecurity, and data analytics. With more than 25 years of experience in leadership, management, and audit in federal, state, and local governments, Mike has served as branch chief at the Office of Management and Budget, Director of Internal Control Program Management Office at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and was program analyst at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Transportation Security Administration. A CPA, we're grateful for that. Mike also spent as a supervising senior accountant at KPMG and has held positions with the U.S. Government Accountability Office, Maryland General Assembly Office of Legislative Audits, and Maryland Motor Vehicle Administration. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mike.
Thank you, Denise. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for your leadership with the CPA profession. Thank you so much.
And I have to say, we're always talking about the CPA, designation having limitless career opportunities, and you demonstrate that with just everything that you've done and where you're headed. So just appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you.
So maybe we can just kick it off with first you sharing maybe some highlights. I mean, there's so much that the National Science Foundation does and is doing, but maybe you can just share a few highlights of kind of what you're focused on as an organization, and then maybe what a typical, and I'm not sure that there's a typical day, but maybe what a typical day looks like for you in your role.
Okay, thank you. By way of background, NSF's mission, it's to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and to secure national defense and other purposes. What I do at NSF, I'm basically NSF's principal accountant. I'm lucky to lead a rock star team of about 35 staff. We do all the things that go along with accounting. We prepare the foundation's financial statements. We run a cloud-based financial system, and then we maintain control and make disbursements of about $8 billion of taxpayer funds. A way to think about it, I heard a former CFO describe it as NSF's kind of like a ATM machine with colleges and universities and other scientific activities. So we basically give out financial assistance to universities to help them do scientific research to just advance science and technology. And one aspect of NSF's mission that really gets me excited and proud to work at NSF is a mindset our leadership impresses upon us. They call it speed and scale, where I think accounting has a lot to learn from, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit throughout our talk today. But it's all about the future work and my purpose of just upskilling people, partnering with different folks outside of our community so we can achieve more. And then the neatest part is translation of innovation into some age-old processes to do some really neat things. So hopefully we can go through that a little bit today.
No, that is, you said a lot there, and that is top of mind. I've had a lot of conversation on that, the upskilling. And I liked what you really said about the speed and scale mindset. I mean, the growth, we have to go in that direction, right? And that isn't always the most comfortable direction to go. So we have to really stretch ourselves. So yeah, we'll get into that because there's a lot there. We could probably talk all day about that for sure. So one piece I just wanted to kind of get into is some of the trends. So we're seeing trends, and we talked at the top here of, robotic process automation, blockchain, cybersecurity. I mean, you could go Web 3.0, you could go digital twins, all of that is out there. So how do you stay on top of these? Because they're quickly evolving, there's change, and some of them are in a more of a maturity state than others. So how do you stay on top of those, and just with everything that you're doing and with your ATM piece of it?
Yeah, yeah, it's too much to keep up with all at the same time. So I do a little bit at a time, and then I kind of go between the areas. But one foundation I have, if I could share it with you, is just a little bit before the pandemic, around 2018-19. I had a chance encounter with a University of Maryland professor in accounting, Larry Gordon. And it was just so neat to go see him, because I had all these memories of, and I hate to date myself, but when I went to college, I had assignments where the technology lab was to send an email or COBOL coding. So I, went to talk to a professor, 20 plus, years later. And he really inspired me to tell me about how much has changed since I was an undergrad, and he had this framework to frame it, and I think that helps with being able to to bounce between. But he called it the ABCDs of technology impacts on contemporary accounting, where A is automation, B is blockchain, C is cybersecurity, and D for data analytics, or I've been getting into data science recently. But you're right, Denise, as you mentioned in your question. So some of them have their ups and downs. For example, with automation, I was heavily involved in RPA about 3 years ago, and that was mainly from a leadership perspective to help with change management, get contracts in place, get how to go about buying robots and what they are, and various change management to help folks and staff know this wasn't going to take over their jobs. But what was most fascinating about it is staff really loved it, and it just took off so much that they're doing it now, and they're programming the robots, and they've got like new opportunities to stretch their skills in different ways. And I've kind of pulled back on it and just kind of getting out of their way and let them do their good work. With blockchain, that's a little more experimental and developing. In the federal government, we've got a group, the Treasury Department. We've done a number of pilots and use cases with universities to see how our current payment systems, what they would look like in a blockchain environment. And if there's a chance, I can give you some links for if you have a resource section of your podcast, to see how that works. But there's a lot of change management. I think blockchain is a little far off, but it's clear it's coming, because you see it popping up in universities and education settings all over the place. With cybersecurity, that is primarily a role our CIO and our Chief Information Security Officer leads, but it's very important for accountants to understand they got a big part of it too. I mean, everything doesn't rest, with the CIO or the technology types. So I work to be a good partner. We've done a lot of work to really reduce workloads related to service provider reporting, SSA 18s or SOC reports. So we're really close with our CIO. And then most recently, I've been spending the bulk of my time in data science, understanding what data science means to accounting and the impacts we're going to be feeling in the years ahead.
Yeah, I was writing notes. There's a lot there. So maybe we can just go in the direction, because I like what you said about CPAs and being that partner, right? You can't know everything about the IT, but you have to understand it. So just if you can just maybe go a little bit deeper in that, as a CPA, what's your role, and what are some tips you have for how we can be that better partner really for businesses, clients, where we work?
Yeah, I feel there's a change we've been going through over the years, or at least in the federal government, where the workload is just so hard to keep up with. And it's just like doing the financial statements, keeping up with all the technical standards, working with different businesses to or business partners in the organization to make sure we do fair and accurate financial statements. And then it's always seemed a little elusive, the part after that, like knowledge and decision making, providing other forms of services. But I feel that is where we're at now. We're in a really important moment where the technology we have with like RPA, for example, it's just all the grind work or manual work that goes along with accounting. You can get robots to do that, and it frees up a lot of time. And as I tried to say earlier, that by no way, shape, or form, are we doing robots or technologies to outsource, or cut jobs or anything like that. But you really find that you have more time to do, other forms of work, such as supporting leadership, being able to take accounting data, turn it into information and knowledge to kind of help form decision making. And in the federal government, we have the saying that, for years, accountants have been vying to get out of the back room into the boardroom to, just go over all the neat stuff about accounting. I think that the time is now, and with all the technology advances that are available to us.
No, I couldn't agree more with that. And just, I think sometimes we all are a little anxious because we think the technology would take over our work, but it really will augment what we do. And if you just lean into it, it's easier said than done. But if you can lean into it, you can see some of the applications for that. So, yeah, I really like that, the back room to the boardroom. I think that is where it's going. Just, you said something too in your when we were talking a bit ago about the data science, and on your LinkedIn I want to get this right. On your LinkedIn profile, you have aspiring data analyst. Can you just provide a little more insights into that?
Yeah, we data. I think it helps if I define data science first, because it's it's a term that's been around. I think around 2012, but it's not always clear. But think about it as a Venn diagram, Denise, where one circle is statistics. Another circle that intersects is like a Venn diagram with computer science, coding, and then a third circle for domain. So basically, data science is the intersection of statistics, computer science, and any business domain. So one thing that I've with the pandemic, I mean, we've gone through a lot over the last few years. Not going through the Great Resignation or anything like that, but I really use the extra time to upskill. I'm taking some. I'm involved in a master's program at the University of Maryland, but excuse me, I misspoke. University of Virginia. I went to Maryland undergrad, but a way to think about it is that I'll never be like a full-blown data scientist, but I just want to know that the domain part, being a good accountant and knowing how to interact with all the various data technologists and statisticians involved. And then when you think of statistics, that we have accountants. Most accounting programs come with a basic statistics course or linear regression. That's part of data science, but it's really the ability of being able to apply these statistical methods using computer technology and then using it for decision support in any business domain. And the science aspect of it is, the formulas or the technology. It's evidence. So there's a big push in the federal government with evidence-based decision making. So science, it's like hard to refute. It's not. There's no bias in this. It is what it is, and it helps with. Sometimes if you have a conversation with an auditor, it's there's a little bit of tension there, but it helps make the. It's kind of like you're harder on the processes and softer on folks, but That's what I've been working on the last couple of years. And I say aspiring data scientist because I don't think I'll ever be. I'll always be a CPA, but I just want to how to be a different type of CPA, kind of going into the future.
I really appreciated that explanation because I did struggle with it, and that just it's really clear. And when you think about the statistics piece, I took that over 20 years ago. I remember that class because it it's different, right? It's a different way of thinking and just being able to ask the right questions.
Oh, Denise, that is step number one in data science that you hit is like, sometimes they say, or I've been taught that, you can work on a data product or some kind of neat visualization, but it just sits on the shelf. So you always, just what you just said, you always got to start with what questions are you trying to get at, and then there's a lot of fun that goes along with it to be able to use the technology to answer that and provide value. So that's a very key point, Denise. Thank you.
And then just maybe too, if you can talk about the upskilling, because you mentioned that, Mike, at the beginning of our call, mentioned it again. So what would be your suggestion for CPAs as far as upskilling, where they need to, like step one, what they might want to learn, and then how they can grow within kind of some of that statistical science piece?
Yeah, I will say it's a little hard at first, and it's a little intimidating. But I believe that continuous learning, it's just like, when I went through college, I was so proud to get and pass the CPA exam and things like that. And I'm going to be an accountant forever, and I will be. But I don't think we're in a world where it's that's going to be enough. I believe that, there's the technology is just, just think personally. I mean, you got iPhones and voice recognition and, things we do in our personal lives. That's all coming into the workplace now. And you really need these skills to kind of, keep up, with the changes that are, going on, everywhere. So I will say there's some phases I went through. The first phase, I will say it was a little painful because I hadn't been in school for about 25 years. So just being able to, figure out how to take a test, I was a little humbled by, some of the things on my computer. But, if you just keep at it, a little bit at a time, all the time, it's not that bad. And then you get more confidence with it. And then I had this one experience, Denise, where what got me hooked is they just really, like at UVA, they throw you, in a nice way, they throw you to the wolves to like show you, what's possible with all the data. And at first you're it's a little humbling and intimidating, but then you get so motivated by it. And, there's a little bit of coding involved and stuff like that, but after a while you get used to it, and then you got a foundation and just continuously build on it. So I graduate next May, but think the technology is always changing. So I'm always going to, something I learned last semester is out, the next semester. So it's really that discipline of just, what you learned yesterday isn't always going to be, tomorrow. So that's just how I personally feel. I recognize that's not for everybody, but it's one thing we're really trying to impress upon my staff is, that they're going to have it a little different than I did. I mean, I think I'm going to even have retirement a little different than, like my parents. I think, we'll still be able to work in a lot of, ways with, this technology. So that's just my thoughts, Denise.
No, that's great. I mean, the continuous learning is really important. And when you have the CPA, it's a great foundation to build on for some of these other areas that we're moving into. When you have the trust aspect. And I always think what was key to me, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and it wasn't, it's just fact and appearance and having that integrity and just the discipline piece. So it's been a good foundation for me to build on too, as I go forward. But I just was at a conference and it was all about Web 3.0. We were talking about blockchain and metaverse and all of that. And I felt like my head was going to blow up afterwards. So we said, what are the one or two things we can take away? But to your point, you've got to be just engrossed and embedded in some of this, the new world. And it is exciting.
Yeah, I think you just said something there was very interesting. Like, you think about keeping up with, all the new technology, that's coming at us. So one thing I found, very interesting is some things like R and Python, if you're, with like the coding with data science. The interesting thing about that is not so new. I mean, R and Python have been around since the 90s, with statistical fields. What's new is, it's coming into so many other domains, like accounting. You mentioned blockchain, but what really resonated with me with what you just said was the metaverse. Because you have, everybody knows blockchain's coming, and that's like a list of things. But that was really key, Denise. For I think that too with the metaverse. One thing, I think just understanding what the metaverse is. But one thing I'm seeing, over here on the East Coast, I think this might be another other colleges too, but you see college campuses offering courses in a metaverse virtual type way. So the University of Maryland Global Campus, they're doing classes. They have like a virtual campus. They have virtual professors with like avatars. So you think of like what we went through recently with the pandemic, and kids not able to go to schools, with college campuses being shut down with the pandemic, and just the rising costs of education. I think the metaverse is going to have two things: a profound effect on education. I mean, I see it with my kids with like video, games and stuff like that. But one thing I'm just curious, just for conversational thoughts, just thinking out loud, Denise, is I think it's going to help us work longer. Like it's going to like augment, because you think about, I don't know. It's just you think about like having, people used to think they would have pensions and retirements forever, and then that changed with 401ks and things, and now, I'm looking, I mean, I still got a little while to go before I retire, but, I don't know if retirement's going to be like you just stop working. I mean, you just keep on providing value and doing things to, have a purpose. But I've seen some things on the metaverse where I hope this doesn't get a little silly, Denise, but they had some like aging rock stars who are like, they maybe like, they can't get around as much as they could, but they're using the metaverse to still do their concerts. And it's like, so I said, wow, I wonder if I'll still be able to work and kind of, be able to do, things augmented. And that's an important thing you said also earlier. It's like the technology doesn't drive you, you drive it. And, it's an extension. It's like a superpower. So we're in some really interesting times.
I like what I'm writing that down actually, because the technology doesn't drive you, you drive it. That's key. That's key. And the whole metaverse is just, I'm actually taking a class, which just because I want to understand it more. And we have avatars. We are avatars in this world. And it's just fascinating. And it's just trying to understand that whole world that my son knows, but I know it's not as relevant for me. So yeah, it's fascinating. I need to have lunch with you or something, Mike, so we can just talk more about this.
It'd be my honor.
I would love that. Just to kind of change gears just a bit, maybe we can talk about STEM, because I know that the National Science Foundation issued a report in 2020, titled STEM Education for the Future. And we have been, as an organization, as a profession, just out there talking about STEM and having conversations about adding accounting to STEM, because it fits nicely and is kind of falls within that line. So just your thoughts on that.
I have to, I'll give you kind of a personal thought and kind of what I'm seeing and, from my work at NSF. It was around 2019-ish. There was a CNN interview with the Google CEO, and he was talking about that, keeping up with science and technology it's becoming a moral leadership responsibility. And that is, the point he was trying to make was that technology is outpacing us so fast that, he was talking about how they're making strategies to actually slow down the technology a little bit because it was, for the public good of, Google as a company. So he really had that ethical, leadership. So that's one thing that really struck me, and that's why as a, leader in financial management, I try to, be a good leader for my staff to really make sure they're aware of this. But the STEM connection, I was so grateful to see, your leadership around that, Cal CPA, the AI CPA, because when I saw the STEM Pursuit Act, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm born and raised an accountant, and now I'm kind of picking up science and technology through data science. So I'm, picking up both. Still going to be an accountant, but from a professional perspective at NSF, it's just it's such a national priority right now. I mean, STEM is the foundation of U.S. leadership. It's a vital element of our country's competitiveness. To be prepare all of our people for the next revolution. Have you ever heard the term the fourth industrial revolution? There's been like agriculture, machine, all we are in a time like that, with the technology. So, with all these things, it's really important to have a knowledge intense economy where people are using STEM skills hand in hand, and that's what I'm personally, picking up through data science, and then it's the whole thing about jobs where I think of my father as a longtime career CPA. I'm not going to be, it's going to be different, with my career. And so NSF they've done this for years, but they're really doubling down as an agency to invest more and more in teaching of science and technology and engineering and math. So young people going through all levels, K through 12, college, understand that tech world that we live in. So it's in a final aspect, Denise, is it's good for diversity. I mean, you've got you think about CPAs, you may have like tax CPAs, technology, cyber CPAs. It's like a whole realm of new people to bring into the tent to make the accounting, more diverse. I think, that expanding the tent might, there's a little bit of change management there, but it just really opens up, a lot of opportunities for women, unrepresented ethnic groups, racial groups, people with disabilities. There's a lot of work. Actually, have you ever seen over in the UK and Ernst & Young, Ernst & Young being one of the big four, over in the UK, they're really leading the world in dyslexia, and, how neurodiversity is not, it's not a disability, but it's just really, the E&Y is doing a lot of leadership around this to, how we can put, create opportunities for folks that have dyslexia. So it's really important. I'm grateful that you asked the question and, the professor's leadership on that.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even realize the dyslexia, the neural disability. That's fascinating.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And I was surprised, I saw it and I said, that's the writing on the wall when you see Ernst & Young, big top global accounting firm, they, just Google it, Ernst & Young and dyslexia. They've done a lot of good work around that. And there's a lot of talent out there that can be unlocked and just empowered.
And as you unlock that talent, to your point, the diversity, just all boats rise, right? Because we're all better for that.
Yes.
So I will look that up. That's great. So, like I said, I could talk to you a long time, Mike, but we have to wrap up and we'll have to have another podcast and lunch for sure. But so as we wrap up, you said a lot about leadership and upskilling. And so I had a question for you. What has been some of the guiding principles that you've used to motivate you to be clearly that cutting edge, innovative leader that you are? And, what imparting thoughts would you give to our audience on how they can lead the way, no matter where they sit?
Yeah, Denise, I think you hit it earlier in one of your comments. I've been really lucky in my career to work with a set of great leaders. Just as you emphasized integrity, that was kind of like I've worked with leaders like David Walker, former Comptroller General with GAO. He had the saying that integrity takes a long time to build, a second to lose. CFO at DHS, David Norquist, we had to really take truth to power to, leadership to, get through, all these accounting challenges we had to get our first opinion. And then there's different leaders I've worked with that I try to, learn from with, communication and just, really, thinking of accounting as a craft and, just really trying to be good at it every day. But one thing I'm working on with leadership to further develop, and I think this goes along with a lot of things we said around technology, is just understanding emotional intelligence, a little bit better, because I'm hearing that we're going to have technology going to do a lot of the things, so we're going to need new skills, to interact with people more. And show empathy and pay more attention to diversity challenges and whatnot.
That's great. Now the EQ is important, and I think that's something we can all enhance in our toolkit for sure. So this has been just a fascinating conversation. I wish you luck. You graduate when, did you say?
Next May, hopefully.
Next May. Excellent. Well, I'm going to be, that's great because I'll be out in May for AICPA. So I will look you up and we will have lunch and celebrate.
Wow, definitely. That would be wonderful, Denise.
That
Thank
would
you
be
so
great.
Much.
Yes. Well, thank you for all your words of wisdom, for sharing your insights. This has been just a fascinating conversation, and we will connect early next year.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. And thank you, Cal CPA.
Rise and Stride is produced by the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. To learn more, visit calcpa.org.